From a stopgap for truck drivers and tank crews to becoming the weapon of choice for the world's most elite operators. The most popular weapon in all of gaming. The silhouette behind 1,000 films and carried by the world's most dangerous nerd. Today, the story of how a humble, cut-down afterthought became the most feared rifle of the 21st century, the M4 Carbine. Today's content is sponsored by War Thunder, more from them later in the video. By the 80s, variants of the M16 rifle had become the standard for the US military. It's a superb weapon, but 39 inches long? 39 inches is a lot of rifle when you're trying to fold yourself into a Humvee, you're hanging out the side of a helicopter, trying to clear a room without clubbing the bloke next to you, or you're trying to squeeze yourself inside of a tank. A new, shorter M16 wasn't exactly a new idea. Back in Vietnam, Colt had chopped one right down into the XM-177 Commando, but that little carbine could never arm a whole army. It's throwing out huge fireballs, big muzzle flash, big concussion, bleeding away velocity, fine for highly trained SEAL teams, not so useful for equipping hundreds of thousands of far less highly trained soldiers. And America wasn't alone in wanting a smaller weapon. Around this time you had Europe's big bullpup boom, the AUG, FAMAS and SA-80, all around the same period of the late 70s, early 80s. I've shown it before, but I'll show it again. These two, with this length difference, actually have the same length barrel inside. Bullpups have their own long list of problems, but there's no denying you get a heck of a lot of barrel for overall length. America, though, chose a completely different path, ignoring bullpups entirely. In fact, America was starting to look a little bit behind the times, sticking with big, cumbersome, full-length M16 variants right into the 90s. It might have looked a little bit behind the times in the 90s, but I think America got the last laugh over the whole bullpup thing, with almost every other nation turning away from them now. But America did need something shorter than the M16, so enter the M4, adopted in 1994. It was the M16 made far more convenient, and convenient turned out to be exactly what modern warfare was about to demand. All Firearms design is a mix of compromises. Long and cumbersome, but 20-inch barrel length, very lightweight and accurate. Short and compact, but heavy, no left-handed, and the usual bullpup limitations. In some ways crude, bit outdated, not very modular, but go to hell and back reliability. It's plastic and the police like it. A little bit less muzzle velocity, a little bit shorter parts life, but incredibly modular, adaptable to the shooter, a very natural manual of arms. With only a few exceptions, NATO Western militaries have pretty much all decided that the M4 pattern of weapons is the optimum mix of compromises, and it's the weapon system they want to handle through the 20s, into the 30s, 40s and beyond. Speaking of the demands of modern warfare, today's sponsor is War Thunder. It's the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. And it's free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. Over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 nations, 1920s biplanes, right through to modern jets and main battle tanks. The vehicles are ridiculously detailed, the graphics and sound authentic, and you're dropped into massive PvP battles alongside 95 million players. If you're into military history, nothing else comes close. What sold me is the damage modelling. There's no simple boxes with hit points. Every component's modelled individually, and rounds behave just like the real thing. After a kill, X-ray view shows you exactly where the shell went through and what it wrecked. Gotta love that kind of kill cam. Sign up with my links in the pinned comment and description down below. New players or anyone who hasn't played in 6 months gets a bonus pack on PC and consoles. The exclusive Eagle of Valor decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium. Limited time only, so be quick. Right, back to the US Army's rifle length problem. The M4 was initially intended for people who carried a rifle but rarely had to fight with one. Vehicle crews, radio operators, engineers, officers who just wanted something short and light that stayed out of the way. Sacrificing a bit of muzzle velocity, maximum range, and parts longevity was an easy trade-off for those only making light use of their weapons. And then Special Forces got hold of it. They saw it was exactly the tool they needed for the work they actually did. In and out of vehicles, room clearing, very fast, violent close quarters fighting. The M4 was kind of their signature weapon and drove its whole development. Full auto, better barrels, rails, all because the world's most demanding gunfighters were pushing for it. And once the elite were staking their lives on this thing, it made it the coolest gun in the armory, so everyone wanted one. Where normally you might have a mass-issued rifle that everyone gets, then special forces tweak it to what they need, this was kind of backwards. It was only given out to a select few people, special forces got hold of it, made it what they needed, and then the mass infantry wanted one. When it comes to hauling a rifle around all day, every day, the shorter, lighter option is always going to be popular with troops. Every single time. So this humble little motor pool carbine climbed all the way up to the front lines, and in the 2010s did the unthinkable. It managed to push the M16 aside and became the standard rifle for the entire US Army. Mechanically, the M4 inherits Eugene Stoner's genius wholesale. The lightweight build, straight line stock, rotating bolt, the clever gas system that may or may not be gas impingement, as a story for another day. It's extraordinarily similar to the M16, which I broke down in an old video you can check up here. It's extraordinarily similar to the M16, but don't make the mistake of thinking it's the same as the M16, just with a shorter barrel. To get this thing to run reliably and not beat itself to death, there were quite a few internal changes. Some immediate, some over time as lessons were learned. But visually at least, there are three things that really set the M4 apart. First, the collapsible stock, which sounds fairly minor, but really isn't. The M16's fixed stock is frankly too long for really anyone under about 5'10", leaving shorter soldiers having to kind of crane their neck or do really bizarre workarounds like shooting with the stock up on your shoulder. The M4's sliding stock fixes all of that in one simple move. With multiple positions, meaning just about anyone can get this to fit their build or their loadout, and slam it down short for when they need to get inside of a Humvee or something. The second big distinctive change is of course the 14.5-inch barrel, which gives up a little velocity, but you gain a weapon you can actually move around indoors without whacking into everything. And third, one that's actually more revolutionary than it first sounds, the flat top receiver rail with Picatinny built in. This may seem simple or obvious to us nowadays, but back in the mid-90s, this wasn't just revolutionary, it was forward thinking. By that point, it was obvious that optics, whether that be magnified or red dot, were the future of fighting rifles. The Steyr had led the way with a built-in optic, but it wasn't removable. The Brits further refined the idea with the removable 4-power SUSAT optic, really the forerunner of things like the ACOG, although unfortunately Enfield had gone with a strange spec of NATO rail that nobody else adopted, meaning later upgrades required workarounds with different adapters. But with the M4 having a Picatinny rail out the gate, it was more or less future-proof. The M4 wasn't just another carbine, it was a platform that you could build upon. Back in the M4's early days, special forces were bolting on optics, lights, lasers, putting them all onto their carbine using clamps, tape, prayer, and whatever else they could improvise. It was a bit of a mess and yeah, took a bit of workarounds by the guys. So to sort all this mess out and make everything far more combat ready, the SOPMOD Special Operations Peculiar Modification Kit, SOPMOD, was born. Block 1 arrived in 1997 as an official list of accessories, all designed to clamp straight onto the M4. And it's a serious list. Quick detach optic, ACOG scope or red dot, backup iron sights, infrared illuminator with a visible laser for working with night vision, weapon lights, quick detach suppressor, vertical foregrip, clip-on M203 grenade launcher, even a shotgun that bolts under the barrel for blowing doors off their hinges. The whole point is that one operator can strip his carbine down and rebuild it for the mission at hand in minutes. A stubby suppressor, laser-equipped room clearer one day, a grenade launching platform the next day. Same base weapon, completely different use case. So the M4 inherited what was best about the M16 and was set up for future success thanks to its modularity. Although that's not to say it's absolutely perfect, there are some things that would have been nice to tweak, like it came with a full sight block with the front iron sight that you can't really take off, it's part of the gas system. So your ACOG always has a blurry little post down at the bottom of your image. It also inherited the AR system's quirk of not allowing you to put it on safe until the hammer is cocked back. Yeah, this one really divides opinion. If you come from most other rifles, where you can just apply the safety catch whenever you want, it does seem a very odd choice, but then again, do you need the safety on if the hammer's not actually back and there's no way it can fire, in theory the rifle's pretty safe at that point. So yeah, we'll let that one slide. And perhaps most oddly, when you're introducing a new system based on something you're very familiar with, not including ambidextrous controls does seem a bit of a missed opportunity. Within a few short years, the M4 has become the pattern that the whole Western small arms world now builds around. Allied militaries, police and special units across dozens of countries, and the huge success story that is the AR-15 civilian variants, which are effectively the M4's 16-inch barrel twin, which became the single most popular rifle in America, and an entire industry of optics, stocks, rails all grew up around it. The M16's first appearance was a disaster, jamming so much in Vietnam that it became a scandal that nearly killed the AR platform entirely. The M4 was the opposite. It spent 20 years proving itself during the global war on terror, a war this rifle was almost literally built for. House to house in Fallujah, compound clearances in Helmand, endless mounting and dismounting from vehicles, the M4 didn't just serve in the war, it kind of shaped how America could fight it. But let's not pretend it was flawless before everyone starts hitting the comments, because for all that, the M4 spent about a decade dogged by reliability issues. And to understand that, you have to understand what happens when you saw the front end off an M16. Cut things down and have to shift the gas block, and you end up with a gas port way closer to the chamber, changing the entire timing of the rifle and ending up with a system that wants to tear itself apart. The timing works entirely differently and the pressures are savagely high, with every shot slamming the action back like a brutal hammer blow and the bolt carrier flying back and forth way harder than Stoner ever meant for it to. And sure enough, parts started to die. Broken bolts, weak ejectors, cases torn in half, and in the heat, dust and dirt of Iraq and Afghanistan, the rifles started to choke. The M4 A1s you picture today may be entirely bomb-proof, but it didn't begin that way. It arrived overcharged, overstressed, and eating itself alive. Then there was issues of heat. To stay light, the M4 got a thin barrel, and thin barrels get hot quick. Not at all helped by the crazy profile, which was thinner towards the chamber, where pressures are higher, then thicker at the end to help support grenade launchers. It's kind of backwards. Government profile. Not really sensible. So the barrels were too thin in profile, and thin barrels like to cook. There were reports that M4s in large battles were being pushed way beyond their design capability, where essentially as soon as you start to pass a standard combat loadout of about 7 magazines, you'd cook the barrel to the point where it hit around 1200 to 1400 degrees, which was the point where the metal would lose integrity, rifling would strip out, and then before you know it, you couldn't actually chamber a round. Of course, this was a carbine being pushed way beyond its design capabilities, and was as much an indictment of how the weapons were being used without proper support from machine guns as it was the rifle itself. But it at least began to seem that the rifles couldn't handle heat in the same way that others could. And a huge slice of the rest was never the rifle at all, it was the magazines. Until about 2009, the M4 was being supplied with the cheapest magazines possible, typical military stuff, with metal mags that were prone to deforming and having feeding issues. Soldiers who bought their own magazines privately watched half of their M4 problems vanish instantly. But between its arrival in 1994 and about 2012, the military implemented a substantial number of small tweaks built on the feedback and experience of thousands of troops firing millions of rounds in some of the harshest environments on Earth. Better feed ramps, heavier buffers, new bolt, new extractor, reprofiled heavier barrel, combined with improvements in ammunition designs, helping to make up for the lack of barrel length, and it all combined to transform the M4 from something tetchy to rock solid dependable. Quick clarification, because people muddle them all the time. The original M4 had a 3-round burst inherited from the M16A2. The M4A1 swapped that for proper full auto and later gained heavier barrels. When you picture a modern M4 in your mind with flat top receiver, rail, full auto, optic on top, you're likely picturing an M4A1. Over the years, despite the US military's best efforts, the M4 has proven almost impossible to retire. The original XM8 cancelled, the FN SCAR Special Forces kept the heavy 7.62 version, but largely dropped the 5.56. You can check out more about it in my SCAR video up here. The individual carbine competition of 2013. 6 entrants, no winner, because nothing beat the M4 by a wide enough margin to bother switching. Plus there's the training requirement, parts cost, the familiarity, and just the huge sunk cost that's already in the M4 system. In the end, the only thing that has seen adoption is the Army's radical M7, but that's got some serious critics. Technically, the M7 isn't really a replacement carbine at all. It's not even an assault rifle by definition. It's a return to the full-power heavy battle rifle concept of the early Cold War years, which many are seeing as a bad backward step. And in May 2026, US Special Operations Command launched a program called HICAR, the Hypervelocity Improved Capability Assault Rifle. And for all its long sci-fi name, the idea is so simple. SOCOM don't want a new rifle, they want to keep the M4, same lower, same magazines, same optics and suppressors, and just bolt on a beefed up upper that can fire a hot new hypervelocity 5.56 round and double its reach out to 600 meters. While still being backwards compatible with regular 5.56, making procurement and the whole supply chain so much easier, and meaning Special Forces won't ever be in a situation where they can't get at least something to fire through their weapons. One serving Green Beret put it bluntly, this thing will kill the M7. It looks like AK pattern weapons are gonna soldier on well past a century of use, and it's looking like the M4 could drive the AR pattern just as far, if not further, into the future. And one last thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. If you want to go and command the tanks and aircraft this thing was designed to be carried in and out of, it's free right now on PC, PlayStation, Xbox and mobile. Use my links in the pinned comment and the description to sign up. If you're a new player or you haven't touched it in the last 6 months, you'll get a massive bonus pack on PC and consoles, multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and a week of premium accounts. It's a limited time offer, so go and claim it before it's gone. Thanks for watching.